That's what we do. We dance, bringing it in every Tuesday night. That's what we do. All
Thank
right,
God I got
gentlemen,
a
how you doing
swivel
tonight?
chair.
What's that?
I said, thank God I got a swivel chair because it's
That's
easy
it.
for my old broke ass to move. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Don't want you to fall out though. Be careful, Doc.
Oh,
Be careful.
okay.
You're old.
Damn it.
Hey, happy that you are here tonight, Richard. So glad to have you on. You know, we've talked about doing this. I've been on your podcast. First time you being on my podcast. We have done some podcasts together when we were doing the smoking and joking stuff there, when we were bringing veterans together and telling our stories. But thanks for being on. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I get to hang out with you guys, have some fun, have some laughs. Thank you, Monster Energy, for keeping me going all day. So, guys, I'm just here to have some fun and talk shit.
Yeah, that's what
Hell
we're going to do. Yeah, we got to get three veterans together, you know, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about some good stuff tonight. So hopefully some of our veterans will jump on and watch. Go ahead.
Before you go any further, I just want to give a warning out. If you're easily triggered, this is probably not going to be the show for you. Fair warning.
Yeah, anytime you put a tanker in a room with anybody, there's bound to be some shenanigans.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. There's Lisa Herring watching already, Richard.
Ooh, Lisa, I love you. I love you. I love you. Mwah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we love Lisa Herring. So the Queen of Convene, she's back to being the Queen of Convene. People may not know, but she does the best. And then she got overtaken for 1 month, and then she quickly reclaimed it and was like, nobody's going to mess with me. And so she's back in charge and all that. Hey,
take a nap.
Hey, Richard, introduce yourself a little bit. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do. And then we'll kind of get into your background, your story here.
I am, guys. My name is Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. I'm a top podcast host, now a three-time top-selling author. My book drops tomorrow officially. But I'm a veteran, and I tell everybody I'm just a junkie who got lucky. I'm clean 35 years, got thrown out of the military once, came back in, almost got thrown out again for being an addict, got clean, thank God, and became Soldier of the Year, and then did 23 years and got hurt on duty, lost my vision, attempted suicide, thank God that didn't work out. And then, like we were talking about before we came on air, I had to reimagine and reevaluate and reinvent my life. So that's what I did. After I got medically discharged and attempted suicide, I decided there's other people struggling out there like me. And so that's when I started the book and the podcast. So I'm just a guy that knows a guy. And if somebody needs something, I know somebody that has something. So I'm just a guy that knows a guy.
Yeah. And you are a connector, that's for sure. So, you know, a ton of people, which is good.
I love it. I'm just a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
Exactly. I was Joe Dirt before Joe Dirt was Joe Dirt.
That's funny. So a little bit more about your, your story about, getting medically retired. And we're going to kind of jump into this, and I'll just lead it into this, is that we were talking about earlier, and something that we kind of want to do on this show is that a lot of military veterans, when we come in, our whole lives are based around being in the military, what we're doing in the military. And when I got medically retired, it happened fast. It happened extremely fast. And so 1 minute you're in and everything's going great. And the next minute you're out. And you're not prepared to be out, because we do get used to this, whatever. For me, it was the Marine Corps security blanket. I'm going to get paid on the 1st and 15th, and I'm going to get my 96s and my 72s, and I'm going to get my 30 days of leave that I never got to use all of it because we were always too busy and everything. But then the next thing you know, you're getting out, and they give you this little thing called a TAPS class, and that TAPS class is horrible. It does not prepare you for anything. So talk a little bit about when you were getting close and the things that were going on, because I know that was a big time in your life, because we've talked about it before, that really had a huge impact on you and your mental health.
Well, when I got thrown out for being a drug addict the first time, got back in, which is very, very rare. You never hear anybody getting back in for a second time. I was about to be thrown out, but 9/11 saved my life. And then after 9/11, that's when I decided, well, success has clues. So what are the top notch guys doing? So I went from worst to first, and for the rest of my career, I did everything I could to become the ultimate soldier. I reclassified 3 times. I went to every school. Whatever you wanted me to do, you want me to clean the shitters, they're going to be the cleanest shitters ever. So I did everything I could to become the ultimate soldier. And then when I get hurt and I lose my vision and they tell me to my face, you can't see, you can't shoot, we don't need you. And then they medically discharge you and be like, well, it's been nice, because we all know that whenever we were in the military, if we got pulled over, we always just showed our military ID. We never even knew what our driver's license was, if we had one. But then when they took it from me and said, well, you're no longer Sergeant Kaufman. Well, if I'm no longer Sergeant Kaufman, who's Richard? I don't know who Richard is because my whole life has been centered around military. And when you don't know who you are or what your purpose is anymore, it's a really scary place. And that's the place that I got to when I realized, if I'm not Sergeant Kaufman, who am I? Who's Richard? I don't know. I don't have a clue. And I think 90% of veterans don't plan on getting out, or if they do plan on getting out, like Mike Tyson says, everybody got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. They think when we get out, the world's going to open up to us. And when we're private fucking civilian, they don't care. They don't care what rank you had. They don't care what job you had. Now you're on your own. Now you're like my friend Sergeant Nick talks about. You don't have a mission. You don't have a job. The military doesn't give a shit about you. The phone stops ringing and you have no purpose. So a lot of us end up at the bottom of a bottle or at the end of a weapon. And that's where I ended up at when I was medically retired.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of it is you're so right, and you walk away, and you've had that structure your whole life, and then you have, you know, and we can talk about this a little bit as we go. It's it's you and your wife and your kids if you're married, right? And that's it. And all of a sudden, you have this person looking at you, going, "Well, who's this guy? Why is he here all the time? What's he doing?" And it's just different because they even go through the crisis. They lose the spouse's club. They lose all that support that they've lived with their whole life, and while you're in, and now it's just y'all. And then
Well, for
it's
me, the
chaos.
hardest part was during this time, because I was in the National Guard. I was 173 pounds. I was ripped. I was jacked. I was taking substances. Um, so one day I'm ripped, I'm jacked, I'm shredded, I'm doing bodybuilding competitions. The next day I'm blind and I can't even wipe my own ass and I can't even get my own food.
Yeah.
And when you get to something like that, when your kids are looking at you like, but Daddy, aren't you going to take me to school? I'm like, I can't see. And for 18
What
months,
caused your blindness? What caused your blindness?
I was backing up armored Humvee. And instead of him hitting the brakes, he hit the gas and ran over the whole right side of my body and ran over my head. And it caused me to have an ocular stroke.
Jesus.
No kidding.
So,
Wow.
and I was blind. By the end of the day, I was blind. And the funny thing is, because I was on other things, I was jacked, shredded. And when I got ran over, I just got up and I just shook it off. I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm good. And then as we were driving down to Fort Dix, my vision I was totally blind by the time we got down there.
Damn, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
You can't even, it's hard to say, but when you can't even find the toilet paper to wipe your ass, or you have to have your wife bring you food, and my daughter was only 6 months at this time. What you like? Well, what kind of man am I now? Now I can't see. I don't have a career, so I'm not a good husband because I can't even take the garbage out. So it's a big mind fuck, especially for people if they get hurt on duty. It's totally different than somebody just getting out of the military.
Now hold on, let's stay with, because you can see now. And how long were you blind?
Oh, I'm only at about 50% right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went through. It's been 8 surgeries. About 6 years now. I've been able to see 4 years that I've been able to see.
Yeah.
But I still can't drive at night. I still don't drive roads that I'm unfamiliar with. I don't drive in the rain or the snow. But I make do what I got, and I don't look at it as a disability. I look at it as a disability, and I do more than the average person has two eyes do. I mean, when you're a speaker, an author, and you're doing all this stuff, and people look at me like, "But wait a minute, you're blind." I'm like, "Yeah, and what? What's
You
the
can
point?"
talk. You can talk.
I can talk
Can
and I
you?
can I can talk and I can listen. So
Yeah.
I did the best that I can, the best that I can do.
Yeah. That's right.
You know, I'm going to be gross for a second, but there's a purpose behind it. The fact that the average person who's never been through what you've been through doesn't think of all the hurdles that you have to get over, and specifically, you've said it a couple times, which is why I'm going over it, wiping your own ass. Simple things that everyday person takes for granted,
Yeah.
you need help with now. So, yeah, wow, that's impressive that you've taken all of that and you've come out smiling, man. It's fantastic.
I'm just, but like a gentleman I just interviewed, his name is Aaron Hale. Now he's blind and deaf, and he just ran the Badwater 135, and his time was almost as good as David Goggins.
Wow.
Whoa.
So those are the kind of people that I'm like, okay, just because I'm at 50% vision, he's got no vision, and he's running the Badwater 135 and also starting a podcast, and he's blind and deaf, but he also has a fudge company, and he's a real estate mogul. So I'm like, what can I complain about? At least I
Yeah.
can see 50%. He can't see nothing or hear anything.
He's an
Wow.
alien.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's
people
not
like that,
human, my God.
and people like that, that's what keeps me inspired and keeps me going every day. When somebody says, well, why don't you quit? Because I'm too dumb to quit. I'm too
Yeah.
dumb to quit.
Absolutely. I agree with what you just said. And you have to have goals. That's okay. So, and I really want to get into talking about this, but before we get there, I'll just say it and then I want to ask Doc a question. You know, we got to set goals. And that's the problem that I see with a lot of Marines is can we get them to where they can set goals and they don't just go into that victim mentality. That's what, your focus is. What we focus on is I hate to see my fellow veterans. Yeah. Yeah. Today I decide that's what it is, Richard. It's today I decide. It's that again, when we're in and we're active duty, we have a purpose and we're out there driving and we're making things happen. And then when we get out, we lose that purpose, and we can't, not that we lose, we lose the purpose, but we can't go out and find another purpose for ourselves. And we go into this hole, um, Doc, talk a little bit, just so, for those who are watching this, 32 years in the Navy. I mean, talk about your transition out and, what you did while you're in and then out, cause you did a lot.
So I'll give the abridged version of the career. I started out as a corpsman. Went to my first infantry battalion as an E3. Left infantry as a chief, E7. So I essentially grew up in the Marine Corps in my career. From there, I went in. That wasn't painful enough. I decided to do 2 submarines. I was the sole medical provider on board 2 fast attack submarines. That wasn't painful enough, apparently. So I went and I got my nursing degree, and then I got commissioned as a Navy nurse, which I still giggle when I say. Um, and then finished out my career after 32 years as my specialty was emergency department trauma nurse. So, but with that being said, that sounds really short, but I struggled. The day that I retired and I took off my uniform for the last time, it's exactly what you were saying. I didn't know who I was, and on top of it, 32 years is a long time, but my father was military. So that's all I've known my whole life. So I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what purpose I had other than I had one goal, and that was to stay alive as long as possible so I can get all the money back from the government that I possibly could. But
Yeah.
no, I struggled. I quit drinking. I quit drinking shortly after I retired, but uh, like you said, I found myself not at the end of a bottle, but of a barrel. And if I would not have had a friend call me out of the blue, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't say that for pity. I'm, I still have a lot of issues. You guys all know that, but I'm not in that place anymore. So there's no, and I don't think I'll ever be back in that place ever again. Although I do struggle every day, and I have definitely my dark moments, but I don't even contemplate that anymore.
All right, Doc, can I ask you a question now? I'm putting on my podcast hat now. Can
All
I
right,
ask you a personal question?
absolutely.
The average American male lives to 78 years old.
Uh-huh.
The average veteran and first responder male lives to 59. Why is that, in your personal opinion?
Well, I will say, in my personal opinion, it has everything to do with identity. Not you give your life up to service, whether it's military, whether it's first responder. That's your life. You serve. You were here, brought to this earth to serve your fellow humans. When you finally remove yourself from that job, at first there are many other ways to continue that service, but in the moment we can kind of get lost in that and not be able to see clearly. Yeah, there's other options out there, but I spent my whole life providing for others. I have nothing to do anymore. I don't know who I am. I don't know how to live because I lived for serving others. And look, there's a thumbs up. Um, but I think that's probably has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, if you sit there and watch historically, you watch people, no matter when they are in life, um, if they keep going and keep going, then they keep living. If
Mhm.
they stay engaged and they have their goals and they have things that they're working at, they continue to thrive. And I think that goes back to a little bit of what we're talking about is that sometimes when you're in that service world and you serve and you serve and you serve, and then all of a sudden you lose that sense of identity and purpose, and you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself and you don't believe in yourself and you just go down that rabbit hole, then it can get bad on you. I work for an amazing person on the flying side who's 87 years old, and he works like all three of us combined. He works harder than us, Roger Penske, and yeah, he's going to continue to work because if somebody like him slows down, who's worked his whole life and done everything that he's done, who knows what will happen to him? Well, I think that's goes back to what we're talking about, Richard, is that a lot of us veterans, a lot of veterans that I end up working with and talking to, they're not out there running like that gentleman is running. They're not out there writing books like you're writing books. They're not out there doing podcasts. They're not out there making that difference. And when you lose that sense of purpose, because when we were in the military, we had a sense of purpose. We had a sense of purpose. I had a good friend of mine, 32 years in the Marine Corps, prior enlisted, became an officer. The day of his change of command, goes in that morning and passes the duty, says good morning, goes right into his office, closes the door, and does exactly what you said, puts that gun to his head.
And
Um,
don't you think that it's weird that they say that 5 years after a man retires, he expires?
yeah,
So there's
Yeah.
a reason why when you retire, you expire. I don't plan on ever retiring. So,
that's it. You
you know
can't.
what I mean?
You can't.
I'm retired and I love it. Now, Richard, I have a question
Now
for
you
you.
said retired or retarded?
Yes,
And both.
all the above. My question for you is, since we're speaking of statistics, the couples that have been married, long time, 40, 50 years, statistically, the man dies before the woman. And it kind of
Yes.
leads into what we were saying. But do you know why
Yes,
They
I
do.
do. And I actually have the facts to back it up because women give heart attacks, they don't have them.
I was just going to say because we want to.
You
Got to
better
get
make,
out of the
you better make
situation.
a soundproof room there, buddy.
Did you
She
say
got
you said
home.
something before the show started about how uncomfortable the couch gets sometimes?
No, no, no. I said the couch is very comfortable. However, after 3, 4, 5 days, it gets a little lumpy, you know. That's
Oh,
why I bought that camper.
that's right. And way you can get away and go out and do it. But you're right. You got to have something. You have to have something. Um, and so, Richard, you interview a lot of people, right? But you interview a lot of the go-getters. I mean, who's succeeding and who's not out there, from your opinion?
Like I said, I've had millionaires, billionaires, authors, athletes. I just got done speaking with one of the stars of The Sopranos and the Bronx Tales on Saturday. So for me, the people that are succeeding, and success is different for everybody. Um, Success is different. I don't care if I'm ever a millionaire or a billionaire, but if I can wake up and have everything I want and not need for anything, and my family's healthy and they're happy, that's success for me. So success is graded on a curve, but I think people that are succeeding, they have a bigger mission than themselves.
Yeah.
Like for me, this year, my goal is to help 3 million people. And last year was 1 million. We hit that. Now but it just keeps getting bigger. But I think if your goals don't scare you a little bit, then you're not doing it right. It's got to get like, it's kind of like when we're in the military, when you wanted to pass something, you wanted to crush a course or you wanted to crush your PT. We need to start doing that in other aspects of our lives. And once you stop competing, it's over. Cancel Christmas. It's over once you stop competing in life. So
what about Hanukkah? Cancel Hanukkah too?
Yeah. Yes, because
you got to be on your toes around here, buddy. That's all I'm saying.
Because the Jews get tired too. So that's
I got to up my game, man. My goal is just to have pizza rolls in the freezer for now whenever I want them. You know, jeez.
Hey, if that's your goal and it's getting you through day to day, then we're doing good. So,
like my goal is like every time we go out for dinner, if it's to a nice place, I order the surf and turf. I'm ordering steak and lobster tail. That's for me because I remember 5 years ago when I got sober, I was eating out of garbage cans and eating dog food. So for me, I celebrate every day. Like, hey, God gave me another day. Let's party. Let's celebrate.
Wow.
As well you should, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. If you want
Honestly,
steak and lobster, have it.
I mean that wholeheartedly. As well you should.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I said that a little bit, the biggest influencers are the people that, make a difference in one person at a time. So, you got Lisa on here, and I asked her that question a long time ago about, we talked about it. And I use her as the example of what's an influencer. Because some people think an influencer is you gotta, have a following of 500,000, 1 million, 2 million, whatever. No, Lisa, she influences people one person at a time. I mean, when she gets the testimonials that say, "You made me feel like a man again," I mean, that's something that's incredible. And so that's what we have to do. We have to have that purpose, and if it's changing and helping somebody and just being there to listen to somebody and doing whatever we can do to lift up our, fellow brothers and sisters, no matter if they're military or not military, that's our job. That's what we're here to do.
Can I give a quick shout out real quick?
Absolutely.
And all because of Lisa, by the way. She's one of my favorite guests on my show ever. She helped me get my disability rating. So thank you. My family thanks you. I always thank you. But she actually hooked me up with another guy named Jerome Spearman Jr. I'm helping his podcast is going live the first week of June. And he's actually going to help veterans go to get 100% of their disability. He's going to take them through the whole process and help them get their disability ratings. And I think Herman and Lisa is working together. So that podcast is going to be dropping soon. And it's all about helping veterans get their disability ratings.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
Yep, very familiar with Drone and know Drone really well too as well. So what he's going to be doing is great. So
yep. He's my
I love it.
student, and we're about to drop it, and it's going to be fire when it drops.
Yeah, he's good. He's got a way of talking. He's very entertaining and all that smooth. And
And
some
it's
of his
all because
videos
of
are
and it's
great.
all because of that woman right there. So
Well, she's the connector, right?
yeah,
Well, I wouldn't even know you if it wasn't for her. I mean,
yeah,
she's the one who connected me and you
yeah.
up for
Tom
sure.
Dorney,
So,
he connected
yeah,
me, you, Tom, and yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. Me, you, Tom, all that. It was funny when we had our Convene 23 event last year, that was down here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. You would ask people when they came up to speak, how'd you come to Convene? Lisa, how'd you come to Convene? Lisa. The majority of people that were there came because of Lisa,
And
so
if it wasn't
pretty
for
cool.
Lisa, my daughter would not be getting disability. So I give her all the honor and all the grace.
Yeah. She's special,
Yeah.
special for sure. Yep. We love Lisa.
Not my kind of special.
No, your special is, I don't even know how to define your special, Doc. I mean,
Not many
it's,
can.
yeah. So what are we going to do? And I say this because I've had some, interactions with my fellow veterans here lately that I'm just going to call it how I see it. I'm like, okay, I'm perplexed, right? I'm perplexed because you want the best for them, but they're living, like we said earlier, they're living in this victim mentality, Richard. They really are. And I want to really kind of find the ways to say, okay, because in the Marine Corps or the Navy or the Army or National Guard, strap your boots up, strap them up, let's go, put them on, tighten them up, and let's go. Um, some of them are struggling; they just can't get over the top. They can't come to the next level. So, you've talked to a lot of people. What's the answer? What's some of your answers that you think we need to do with our fellow
Sometimes,
vets?
sometimes we need a little bit of tough love, and sometimes it's just Doc saying, "Hey, Rich, get your lazy ass up." It's time to put in some work. It's time to get into that Marine or that Navy mentality that we had when we were still in. Because remember when I think everybody I've ever talked to, if we ever came home from basic, we were like 10 foot tall, bulletproof. We were like had that mentality the world can't touch us. And I think we need to remember our wins because a lot of
Yeah,
times you go back, like James Clear wrote in his book Atomic Habits. Sometimes you need to celebrate your wins and be like, "Hey, I was that dude. I can bring parts of it. I can't bring it all back, but I can bring some of that dude back." Like Toby Keith says, I'm not as great as I once was, but I can once be great as I was. So I think we need some friends, we need mentors, and we need somebody to kick our ass sometimes. And then we need to go back into our old memories and start thinking, where did I win at? What did it take me to become Soldier of the Year? Well, maybe I need to do that in my personal life and my business life too, because success leaves clues. So maybe if you want to get back to being great at something, maybe you need to find out who's crushing it and start
yeah,
following them and start doing some backwards planning of what you're doing with your life.
yeah. I tell my son that all the time. He hadn't been in the military, but I'm like, when it comes to leadership, he works for Milwaukee Tools, and I'm like, you need to go out there and find the leaders that you like, and if it's working and it's good leadership, emulate that. If it's not good leadership, don't do that. If you see people failing, and we've all lived there. You find the things like you're saying, the things that are working, go after it. The things that are not working, put those away. Don't do those.
But I think even if you ask Mr. Penske, because I've met him a couple of times, I respect the hell out of that man. I'll never call him by his first name; it's Mister. But I bet you, if you asked him how many people asked him for jobs, he'd say millions of people. But
Yeah.
how many people asked him, Mr. Penske, let me sit down and tell me how you did it.
Oh yeah.
Let me work for you
Yeah.
for free. Let me work for free and teach me. I'll bet he could probably count them on his hands how many people that have actually said, how'd you do it? And can you teach me? I'll work for free.
Yeah. It's fun to watch him. Like I've said, I mean, he works. It's really fun that I get to witness that each and every day, when I go fly 'em. I can't even say enough about it because it's awesome. I think I kind of work kind of hard, and I grind. No, not in no comparison, which is pretty cool. So Doc, you need to get your ass going and get to work,
On what?
I don't know. I'm just messing with you. No,
Well,
I'm just messing.
victim mentality is what it is.
It
And
is.
we have to educate our fellow veterans and know that it, it's not okay to stay in that victim mentality. You can mourn a loss of whatever it may be for a specific amount of time, but you cannot stay in that mourning period because you're never going to get anywhere. My background in martial arts, I've competed literally all around the world, and I've lost way more than I ever won. But I've learned more from those losses than I have from the wins.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's important to remember that. It's important to remember, hey, it's okay to fail, but you have to take advantage of that failure and learn
Sure.
from it. Don't
Absolutely.
stay in that failed mentality.
Yeah. Now, I don't know what y'all did. I can tell you what I did, which is actually a funny story now that I think about it. When I'm thinking about one of
Funny
my
how.
friends, Martinez, his son, let me just cut through to his son. His son is getting commissioned in the Marine Corps next week. And so his son called him up because his officer selection officer in the Marine Corps said, "Hey, obviously your dad is going to be the one that commissions you." Cause Vince was a MESEP guy, prior enlisted to officer. And then, spent a lot of time, I can't remember when he got out, 24 years or something like that in the Marine Corps. And, but Vince was like, "Yeah, oh, of course, I'll commission you." Right. So he had to go out and get new uniforms because his other uniform didn't fit, quite as quite as well as it did before. But I was dying. I was in tears listening to him tell me the story about going and getting fitted for uniforms. But here's the point. I I got out and it was such a moment for me when I was getting out. Oh, I tossed everything, gone. Phew. And I regret that a little bit, but then again, I don't, because I needed to make the break, and you got the sergeant major syndrome. I mean, I don't know, y'all probably seen it. I've seen people on videos where the day they get out, they have a bonfire in their backyard and they burn it all because they're like, I got to make a cut. This is one chapter and I got to open up another chapter. And I've heard him say, because my friends that didn't do that died, to your point, Richard,
Well,
Yeah, but then
um,
you
I
also,
didn't.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Richard.
I'm just thinking because then there's the other guy that they've been out 15 years and they're walking around Walmart still rocking the camis, still wearing all the stuff. But when somebody asked me the first couple of years when I got out, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a disabled vet, blah, 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 blah. Now, when somebody asks me, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a podcast host, I'm an author, I'm a speaker. Oh, I'm a veteran too. So it's kind
yeah,
of like, I think you have to evolve.
yeah,
Even like some of the greatest people, like my mentor, John Lee Dumas, Army tank commander, Patrick Bet David, Army guy. So a lot of these guys were in the military, but they evolved. And I think that's the biggest problem
yeah.
is people don't evolve. They get stuck in that one thing.
What I like to say all the time is I didn't start a new chapter. I closed that whole book. I started a new book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I like what both of you are
detachment.
saying. Yeah, I like what both of you are saying. You had to evolve. One of the things that I did, I stayed on with the Marine Corps and was a contractor in the V-22 for 5 years after I got out. And I say it was like being in purgatory. And what I mean by that is that I wasn't in the Marine Corps anymore. So all those people that knew me and all that, as they transitioned out and everything, nobody knew who I was, what I did when I was in the Marine Corps. Nobody, knew my reputation. So you get these punk ass new lieutenants coming in, and they're just looking at me like I'm some old man up in front of the class teaching them. And then our civilian friends were looking at us because we lived in Jacksonville, North Carolina. They were still looking at us like we were in the military. So we were like stuck in between. We were like hovering in this middle. And that's why we were like, we got to go. and so that when I severed that tie and I closed that chapter or closed that book out and, set new goals, that's what, kept it going, right? That's what changed it and
Can I
everything.
just talk about a point that
Yeah.
you guys were talking about earlier, if you don't mind?
Yeah, please.
I interviewed a gentleman. His name is Rich Davini. He wrote a book called The Attributes. He's a retired Navy SEAL commander. And he taught me the 3-minute rule, that if something bad happens to me, I cry for 3 minutes and then it's time to move the fuck on.
Yeah.
Just kind of like if my podcast hits top whatever, I'm going to celebrate for 3 minutes and then it's time to move the fuck on. And I think a lot of time, like you said, and like Doc said, and I believe it, that, failure is an event. Failure is not a person. And as long as you're failing forward, give me all the failures. Let me fail, because the average millionaire has failed over 7 or 8 times in business before he hit the big one. So let me fail, but as long as I'm failing forward, I'm good. And if you can't be afraid of failure.
Yeah, Richard, let's talk about that. How long has it taken you to get where you are with your podcast, with your following and your podcast and your books? How many years has it taken?
6 years and 1,255 episodes.
Yeah. 6 years, 1,255 episodes. And that's what I'm talking about. I've been doing Convene for coming up on, the actual platform. It's taken us we're coming up on 10 years for the actual platform where it is right now. I had a different one, same concept and everything. But so you could really say I've been working on this, 10, 15 years. And our growth and everything that we're doing is going like this now. We're taking off, but too many people quit on themselves. How many people do you know would do 1,255 episodes?
Well, the average podcast lasts 13 episodes. And there's 3 million podcasts out there, but only 500,000 have released an episode in the last 6 months. Wow. So that'll show you right there. But even Bruce Lee once told me, and since you're a big martial arts guy, Doc, so am I. He says he doesn't fear the man that can throw 10,000 kicks. He fears the guy that can throw that one kick 10,000 times.
That's right.
So, and I think if you're going to be, that's why I love the word. I love the word success, and I love the word focus. Follow one course until successful. Because a lot of people, they just try to do this and try to do that. And for me, it's kind of like, okay, this is what I do. And then I can branch off a little bit, but I stay focused on the one thing that I do.
Yeah.
He said doo-doo for one.
He did.
I've been doing...
You're always talking shit, Doc.
What do you know? You not know me? And I guess you don't know me. No, I've been doing my podcast for probably about 6, 7 years, and I'm still at the point where I'm paying for listeners. Hey man, just I'll slip you $5. Just listen to the show.
But it is a struggle, because I think we're at about 2 million downloads right now. But every day I'm still trying to get better. And when you're 55 and you're trying to learn, somebody said you need to learn Opus Click. I'm like, what? What the hell's an Opus Clip? And they're like, my 9-year-old's like, here, just copy, paste, and click. And I'm like, oh. So you have to evolve. You have to evolve, or you're going to get run over.
Yeah, that's really true. You do have to evolve.
But my goal for my podcast is I do it. My co-host and we do it for us. We have fun with it. If we go somewhere with it, great. If we don't, well, we're still having fun with it. So who cares? Yeah. It's win-win.
Yeah. Well, again,
and if nothing's on the table every Friday night, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, I can say that about Convene. I can sit there and watch. I made the decision a long time. It's when other people are succeeding, I'm succeeding. That's what's cool about it, and people like Lisa, coming back to full circle to Lisa. Lisa's doing great things, and everybody she helps, it's like I helped, so which is pretty cool there. Yeah. And so that's what you got to do, Richard. You got to just find your goals. You got to stay at it, and you got to not quit on yourself. And that's the key.
That's the key. And I think that's the great thing for podcasting. For me, as you guys know, I mean, Doc, by the way, Doc, I want to personally invite you to come on my show. So that's an open invitation out in the public. So throwing it out there. But I'm a ninth grade dropout. I didn't even finish ninth grade, and I don't even have a GED. But I've read over 6,000 books, and now I've interviewed millionaires and billionaires. And if I want to know a subject, like I didn't know anything about crypto, so I invited the biggest crypto guy in the world to come on. He's like, sure. So if you don't know anything, start a show. People come on your show, and you can get as much a free BA in business for it'll cost you nothing if you start
Yeah.
a podcast. So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's pretty good. That's cool. Well,
I would be honored to be on your show, sir. Thank you.
I'll send
Thank
you
you
the link
very
over
much.
once we get over this. I'll send you the link, and you come on. I'll work my schedule around you.
Roger, Roger. What's your vector, Victor?
Roger Dildo.
I love it.
Dildo in and out.
Oh, that's funny. So, well, staying on your podcast, tell me a couple of your favorite episodes that you've ever done, like the favorite people. And I know you can say me that I was one of your favorite interviews. You don't have to. We can leave that alone. But
Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
and I
Who,
love
who are some of your favorite interviews?
I loved our interview. I loved
Yeah.
Tom's interview, and I love Lisa. I just love people that have the average person, but because we all have a story. And a lot of people think, well, you got to have the big star. I've had the big stars on, and I get more downloads by people that are not famous than when I've had people that have over 1 million followers.
Yeah.
Because the people that are just down home, they're just average people. And that's when the stories get really deep. So for me, my friends are my favorite guests. And Doc's a friend now, and I can't wait to have him come on the show. But for me, everybody I've ever had on the show, I'm friends with now. I'm friends with all of them. So my network is huge. So for me, it's all about building relationships on and offline. And I believe that and I did a post yesterday that, your network is your net worth. And, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with, and make sure I'd rather have 4 shiny quarters than 100 dirty pennies. So I keep my circle small, but I have very powerful people in my circle.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good advice. And that's solid too. Yeah. I agree with you. If you find the people that you can trust, know, like, and trust, right? Know, like, and trust that they really have the same values as you and have the same beliefs as you. And that's what's cool about it is when you do get to meet people like you, like Doc, all the people that Lisa, Jerome is watching now, Lisa, Amy Krause, all these people that are watching, these people are like kind-hearted. These people want to go out and make a difference in people's lives. Renee's watching, um, that's the type of people that you want to be, working with, talking with, the people who are going out to make different things where it's not about them. It's about what they can do to lift others up.
But even Doc, I think Doc would agree with me. He breaks chops and everything. But if you're hanging out with 5 guys that are going to the titty bars, cheating on their wives and getting divorced, you're going to be number 6. So you are who you hang out with, whether you succeed or you fail. Look at the 5 people that are in your ears the most, and that's what you're going to end up being like.
Totally.
Facts.
Yeah. Totally.
I couldn't agree more. I just had a very similar conversation with my son just a couple of days on that very topic.
Yeah.
So I couldn't have put it any better.
Yeah. Yeah. And Doc's got more of a story. He hadn't even told you, much of a story yet. So, I mean, Doc, tell him a little bit about getting out of the Marine Corps and about COVID and post-COVID and,
oh, geez. Yeah, man. So
warrior. This is crazy, Richard.
I retired. I went on, what do you call it? Terminal leave in March of 2021. I didn't actually officially retire until June 1st. Well, I was going through the Wounded Warrior Empire Academy in June, right after I retired, officially retired. So I still didn't, I was still in the mindset of, oh yeah, I'm still active, blah, 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 blah. I'm around a bunch of veterans, having a blast, go through the course, and I come back and my wife gets COVID to the point where she had to be admitted in the hospital. My kids got COVID. They were very mild case, thank God. I got COVID and I had to be admitted. Well, while I was admitted, I had a freaking heart attack. Before I went into the hospital, I was a healthy dude. I came out with post heart attack, and now I'm an insulin dependent type 2 diabetic, amongst a bunch of other crazy crap that I can only attribute to COVID. Um, so man, I spiraled quick, real quick. I going through the process of separation, transition, whatever you want to call it. It was tough on me. It was tough on my wife. We almost got a divorce through that whole process. There's just so much to it. That's where I was like, screw it. I'm done. I don't need to be here anymore. I didn't feel like I had a purpose. I didn't feel appreciated. Hell, I didn't know if I was going to live long anyway because of everything I'd just been through. So I was about to end it, and out of the blue, I'm just going to say his name's Joe. Joe called literally out of the blue, and couldn't have been any timing couldn't have been any better, because I probably had about 3 pounds off of that 5-pound trigger already. So yeah, snapped me out of it. I realized that being in the healthcare field my whole career, I always took care of everyone else, but I neglected numero uno, to the point of almost criminality. So I was in denial. No, I don't have PTSD. No, I don't have this. I don't have that. Well, yeah, I do. And I finally reached that point where um, my father had gotten terminally ill, had to take a humanitarian transfer back to St. Louis, take care of him. Well, after he passed, I still had to be the strong one because my mother was in a really bad depression. I still had to be strong for my immediate family. I wasn't healing. I didn't even have time to mourn, let alone heal. So that all came to a head after retirement. And yeah, thank God I'm still here.
Yeah.
Well, and I just want to say something, because I think somebody needs to hear this today. This is real talk, guys. There's a difference between post-traumatic stress and post-traumatic growth. And for me, it was when Ed Milet called me on the phone and told me that nothing has ever happened to you. Everything has happened for you, and everything is a teachable moment. Now turn your mess into your message. So, guys, there's a difference between PSD and PTSD. So check out the difference. See if you can change the tape in your head from post-traumatic stress to now use it for post-traumatic growth.
Yeah.
It's 100% doable. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I think you're both spot on. It is about the growth. I always say it. Life's not easy. Life goes through its ups and downs, and when you're closing that book, because I think you're right, Doc. I think it's more of a book than a chapter. When you're closing that book that has been the main story of your life, you honestly have to find a way to grow. And to grow out of that. Everybody, not everybody, but for me, I can only talk about me personally. It was so fast and so like it just happened, right? And then I was out, and here I was on top of the world. I was getting ready to be a V-22 commanding officer, one of the first West Coast squadron. Things were going great, and then I literally my doctor's appointment. I was told I was getting medically retired was a 2-minute doctor appointment, 2 minutes. And yeah, it's that growth. You're so right, Richard. You got to find a way to grow, whatever it takes to grow. But we all have a story. We all have something that we bring to the table. And I also think that it's important for us to know, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. It's important for us and our fellow veterans, and not just our fellow veterans, but our friends, is that you're not walking alone. And you're not the only one that's going through that low point. If Doc hadn't have gotten to the Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy, then he wouldn't have met that person that called him on that phone at that very moment. So things happen for a reason.
And I still blame you for that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Matt's the one that talked me into going to Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy.
Yeah.
And
but like the great poet laureate, Jim Morrison said, nobody gets out of here alive. Okay.
That's right.
So what I did, and I do it once a year, is I write my own obituary. I have my own obituary written in my wallet, and it says what kind of man I am, how my wife loves me, how my kids love me, how I'm changing the world. So now I have to live up to my obituary. And I think if you write your own obituary and live backwards, I think that's a great life hack.
So my first assignment, I think I've told Doc this, my first assignment when I was getting my degree in counseling is I had to write my obituary. And I will say that anybody who's watching this, if you haven't written your own obituary, you have to do it. You have to write your own obituary and then sit there and read your own obituary and look in the mirror. And if that's not what you're living, if that's not what that obituary, if it's lies and that's not what you're living, then guess what? You got to make some changes. You got to make some changes. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up, Richard, because I totally agree. I don't carry mine around in my wallet, but it was one of the most powerful things I've ever done. And I live by that. If I'm not living my obituary, I'm not living like I want to.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
I just wanted to say that clearly I don't use anything as a crutch. I am not playing the victim role whatsoever. But I feel it's so important for me to tell what I went through for a couple reasons. The obvious reason is if my story can help somebody out, that's everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the more I talk about it, the more I heal, and I don't fall into that victimhood mentality. So I hope one person, at least one person, gets something out of my story tonight.
And Richard, that's really kind of a lot of what your podcast is about, right? Is bringing on individuals that have something to share that, if people can watch it, if you can help one show at a time, get to the every level. I mean,
because I tell everybody, like, my goal is to help 3 million people this year, but I can't help the 3 million if I don't help the one.
Yeah.
And if I can help the one, I can help the 3 million. I think a lot of people get it backwards. They're worried about the 3 million, but they're not worried about helping the one. And for me, every show that I do, everything that I do, every speech I give, everything is about the one person that's struggling today, saying, hey, if those 3 idiots can make it, I can make it too. And that's my goal. That's my goal, to let everybody know if he made it, I can make it.
Hey man, if your podcast has all this math stuff on it, I can't do it. I'm sorry.
1 and 3.
I can't do it, man. I'm sorry.
That's a Navy for you right there. The Navy, they don't do math very well.
I don't math on days that end in Y.
No, I think that's great, Richard. It's you bring a lot of great people on your podcast, and it's, what you're doing is making a huge difference to so many people. And here's the deal. And I'll say it is like your name gets thrown around more than almost any name of anybody I talk to. And that's the truth.
I don't know if that's good or not.
It is. Because people will bring you up, about, you need to talk to Richard. Have you talked to Richard? Richard's doing this. Yeah. And that's a good thing. It shows that you're impacting the world. And I think it's awesome. Yeah.
And the thing
I agree.
Like you talked about earlier, is somebody asked me on a podcast, because I'm going to do 300 podcast guesting and I'm going to record 300 episodes this year. But people ask me, are you an influencer? I'm like, I don't know. Are you a leader?
Yeah.
I don't know. Ask the people that know me. If they think I'm an influencer or a leader, that's what they say. Because I got a T-shirt I didn't wear today. It says, "Heroes talk about themselves, but legends get talked about." So I'd rather somebody else talk about me. I don't want to talk about myself.
Yeah.
I have to agree with Matt, though. I have heard your name a lot, usually on the wall of a porta shitter. But I mean,
that was my pen.
Hey, what are you gonna do? Forget about it.
Hey, if you're writing about yourself inside of it, then people are at least knowing who you are.
As long as I spell it right.
Thing.
If I spell it right, I'm good.
Do you put your phone number with it? That's what I want to know.
Some of the best art I've ever seen has been inside of a porta shitter. It's no lie. There's Some
And that
talented
was
Marines out
and
there.
that was before cell phones. You had to read the
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. How many people called you up out of your name on the wall there, Doc? You ever get any calls?
We don't have enough time left in the show for that.
That's a whole different show.
Now it's OnlyFans now. He's on OnlyFans.
Yeah. Yeah. He
20
probably
bucks
does
is
have
20 bucks, man. No, I'm old school. 20 bucks is 20 bucks.
whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. That's funny. All right. So we're coming up here, on the end, Hey, I appreciate you coming on. It's I always love talking to you. We need to get back to doing those veteran calls like we did before. That was really good. We
Well,
had the smoking and
Tom
joking.
is living the life out in Florida, so
I mean, Tom is just, what's he doing? He's just living, going to the beach and all that. I don't know.
he's a big baller now. So
Yeah.
Hey, what flavor of that Haterade is it that you're drinking? That's all I
well,
heard was hate, hate, hate. Hate, hate, hate. Hate, 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 hate.
Yeah.
The devil made you do it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Tom, if we do listening, brother, we love you. Make sure you're taking
Yeah, we
care of
do.
yourself out in Florida. So take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Everybody
I
loves
got you.
Tom.
Yeah.
I got your
Everybody
back, shipmate. I got
Yeah.
you. I'm not gonna let them gang up on you. I got you.
Yeah, get the Navy together. It's tough. Yeah.
Drink to the phone, my friend.
Yeah. Hey, so what's your advice if you're giving advice to our, anyone? I don't want to just say veterans because there's a lot of people struggling out there and a lot of people that need to take it to the next level. What's your advice, Richard? What do you want to you think we need to tell people?
The three words,
Yeah.
the three most important words in English language are "Today I decide," and I
Yeah.
use it as my tagline at the end of every show. Is that everybody may hate Joel Osteen, but I love him. And something that he said is, every day we wake up, we can either be a victim or we can be a victor. It's the choices that we make, and you don't have to be the same person that goes to bed at night is the same person that woke up. Your life can change in an instant. All you have to do is make that decision to change. So today I decide. Today you can either be a victim or a victor. It's your choice. That's my best advice.
Yeah, it's solid advice. And I couldn't agree with you more.
I love it.
And don't quit on yourself.
Yeah.
That's right.
Don't quit on yourself because today I decide is spot on because you make your own decisions. And if you don't quit on yourself and you believe in yourself and you believe in who you are, you believe in who that Marine was or that soldier or that seaman, then you can go out there and do great things. And you truly can. You really, really can.
And if you want to know where you're going to be in 5 years from today, I can tell you by what you're doing at this exact moment. So your moments, your now chooses your future. So whatever you're doing, if you do the next right thing, 5 years from now, your whole life's going to be totally different.
Yeah. Doc, what you got to add?
So one of the things that helped me not get into the victim mentality and stay out of it is a quote by Muhammad Ali. And I'm going to paraphrase because I won't get it exactly right. But he essentially said, the man that views the world the same that he did at the age of 30, that he does, I'm sorry, I screwed it up. The man that views the world the same at the age of 30 than he does at the age of 50 has wasted 20 years of his life, or something to that effect. Essentially, it's okay to change, and you're going to change, but make the change for the better.
Yeah.
Love that.
I thought you were going to say float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Look out, world. I'm Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. All right. No, I couldn't agree with you guys more. I appreciate it's a good conversation. This is something that's been on my mind, getting a couple of veterans on and just kind of talking through it. I've been around some veterans lately and they're living that victim mentality. And I hate to see it. I just hate to see it because I do think all the stuff that y'all said, all the advice that you give, it really is, hold your shirt up again, Richard. It's you decide,
Don't be a pervert.
Yeah, I decide. Yeah. But it is, it's you decide what you can do, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, Richard, we're going to give you the last words and we'll have Doc take us out. So
Well, I just wanted, Renee said I'd love to have Richard on her podcast, and it would be my honor to be on their show. But guys, make sure if you're listening to this podcast, make sure you're subscribing, making sure you're leaving comments, make sure that whatever platform you're on, make sure you leave a 5-star written review, because each 5-star written review equals 10 just stars. So that'll help these gentlemen, because they're not getting paid for doing this. They're doing this because you love them. And also make sure you check out Jerome's podcast when it drops, because if you want to find out the secrets behind getting your VA disability faster and accurately, Jerome is going to be dropping that knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being on, and we will do it again. Thanks for being there tonight, Doc.
Good night, everybody. See you next week.